Hey guys, what's going on? So today is going to be a guide for global version 1.3, the first half of the SOS bosses. So yeah, let's start by quickly just running through the team here. Vino will be going first, Wonder second, Leon third, and Queen 4. My queen is A1. Unfortunately, I would do an A0 and A1 guide if I had access to an A0 queen, but unfortunately this will be a strictly A1 queen guide. So if you don't have an A1 queen, I do apologize. Like I said, if I could borrow one and do both runs, I would happily do so, but unfortunately I do not. Otherwise, we are going to be using the Senknight Inferno dagger, and then as for personas, Dionysus, Jikokuten, and Yanosik. As for what skills you're going to need on each persona, starting with Dionysus, the only skill you'll have to teach him is Rebellion. Revolution and Rebellion are the two skills we'll need from him for this. Jikokuten, you will have to teach him Tarukaja, but that's the only skill we'll need from him. And lastly, for Yanosik, Rakunda will be the only skill you need here. And I only have one note here before we hop into the battle. Like I said, this is an A1 queen guide, because it will be drastically different if you're an A0 queen and you can't crash out immediately on turn 1. But if you are A1 or higher, and you're Vino, Leon, or Wonder, at any point during Queen's cooldown phases for crash out, if I use skill 1 in one of her cooldown phases, because all my units are well off enough on health that I think they'll survive, but yours are not, feel free to swap out whatever I do on the cooldown crash out turn with President's Prowess to heal. Having everyone survive is, infinitely more important. Also, if you're struggling to survive, you can, if you have Tarukaja on Dionysus, swap out Jikokuten for a persona that has a healing skill. Or if you don't want to do that, or you don't have a persona with a healing skill that you think will do enough, last case scenario is you could swap out Leon for Soy. Soy will obviously not, you will not score as high, but if you just can't survive and you need the sustain, you can think about using Soy instead of Leon here. Alright, so let's get started here. We're going to start with skill 1 on the boss for Vino. And then Wonder is going to go ahead and use Revolution on Queen. Leon will use Justice Barrier on Queen. And then Queen is going to crash out. Again, this is for A1 Queen. If you're not A1 Queen, you'll not be able to crash out on turn 1. If you're A0, I suggest, unfortunately, probably just trying to find a guide specifically for a A0 Queen. If I could borrow one, I would do, both sides of the fight, but unfortunately, can't borrow guild units in SOS, so. Alright, and now we're going to go ahead. I'm going to use Sanction Drift here. I think it's just more useful to get the ailments on for the second turn of Crash Out than just hoping Vino and Okyan can get a bunch of stuff on. Plus, it shreds a couple of stacks of this, Azure Scales, which is a defense, a damage reduction for the boss. Alright, so now Okyan is going to be up, so we're going to use her skill 3 on Queen. And then we're going to go ahead and use Queen's Highlight on the boss. And then we're going to go ahead and use Vino's skill 3 on the boss. Wonder is going to use Rebellion on Queen. Leon is going to go ahead and use Ultima Booster on Queen. And before I forget, there is a chance somehow she's the only one who didn't get freeze here, but it's kind of like a low effort min-max if you get frozen on that first attack from the boss. If you want to, I'm not saying you have to, but it is kind of a low effort, min-max sort of thing to just reset. It's only one turn, so you haven't really wasted much time, and it is, Who knows how significant it is in the long run. I would have to run like a ton of math that I'm not capable of doing, but just something to keep in mind. So we're going to go ahead and use skill 3 on the boss. Alright, and now we're going to go back and use Diving Ray, skill 1 with Vino. We are going to switch over to Jikokutsu and use Tarukaja. If you opted to not bring Jikokutsu and brought a support unit on Wonder instead, and you have Tarukaja on Dionysus, use that here as well. The only reason we bring Jikokutsu is because he gives an extra 15 or so % attack for 2 turns when he uses a skill on an ally, so just a little boost if, if we can afford it. Alright, highlights are back up again. We're going to go ahead and use Vino's highlight here. And then Leon is going to go ahead and use Justice Barrier on Queen. And now there's kind of 2 options here, what I mentioned before the fight started. In this cooldown phase of Crash Out, you can use skill 1, or you can use President's Prowess if you have a unit who's low. At this point in the fight, you probably won't have a unit that's super low, but considering I have basically max stacks of ailments and Burn is the only one that's going to fall off after this turn, I think I'm going to opt for President's Prowess just to get the attack boost. But either way, I don't think you're making the wrong call. The turn where it's more of a concern is the following cooldown for Crash Out, when one of these 2 is almost certainly out of health. So we're going to go ahead and just use this on Leon. Alright, so now that Okeon is up again, we're going to go ahead and use skill 1 on Queen. Just judging from the way things are looking right now, we probably are going to President's Prowess again to keep Wonder alive for the final turn, but I guess we'll see what happens here. Alright, now we're going to go ahead and use Bullseye Bomber here, skill 3 on the boss. Wonder is going to switch over to Yanosik, and we're going to use Rakunda on the boss. If you're wondering why we use Yanosik for Rakunda, it's because he also applies Mark, so it's an extra almost 39% defense down in addition to the actual defense down we're using, so just a little bit extra. And then Leon is going to go ahead and use Ultima Booster on Queen. And then Queen is going to crash out and use skill 3 on the boss. Oof. Okay, so now we're going to go ahead and let's use Okeon's skill 3 real quick on Queen. Then we're going to go ahead and use Leon's highlight on Queen. Get these friendship stacks on her for this second Crash Out turn. And Vino, we're going to use skill 1. And then Wonder is going to switch back to Dionysus and use Revolution on Queen. Leon will use Ultima Booster on Queen. And then Queen is going to use skill 3 on the boss. And then hopefully I think the boss will buff himself this turn. So yes, so... Alright, now we're going to go ahead and use Diving Ray again. Just because we want to be able to use her skill 3 on the last turn, and it would be kind of out of rotation. We're going to do something similar with Leon. Alright, now Wonder is going to use Rebellion on Queen. Leon is going to go ahead and we're going to use Justice Barrier on Queen again, just to make 100% sure that we have 2 stacks of Power of Friendship on her. for this final turn when she highlights and uses her Crash Out skill 3. And here's what I'm talking about. I would love to use skill 1 here because we are going to lose a ton of these ailments, and this is going to be a pretty like suboptimal final turn. But Wonder is just not going to survive this last turn, unfortunately. I mean, there is a case to be made that at this point, the ailments are worth more than Wonder using Tarukaja on Jikokuten, or, you know, the defense down from Yanosik. But we're going to go ahead and use President's Prowess because you do get an attack bump, you know, regardless, so... And it wouldn't have mattered because he dodged, so that's just, you know, some of the RNG you face here in some of these fights, but... So we're going to go ahead and use Okion's skill 1 right now on Queen. Vino, Bullseye Bomber. We do have 4 ailments, so not terrible. That's, you know, it's kind of better than I actually was expecting going into that turn, so Okion must have applied some. And now Wonder is going to go ahead and just double check to make sure that she has Rebellion and Revolution. She does, so we can swap back to Jikokuten. I'm sure there's an argument to be made on Rakunda on Yanosik or Tarukaja here. I'm going to go ahead and use Tarukaja, but someone who's done the math may find the other way more optimal. Now we're going to go ahead and use Ultima Booster on Queen. Then we're going to make sure we Crash Out first. Use Queen's Highlight. And then use Queen's Skill 3. So definitely not my best run. I think 4.7 is where I was before. But, you know, 4.47 still a very respectable score, I think. So yeah, if you took anything away from this video, if you learned anything, hopefully this helped you, you know, at least come up with a loose rotation. This is kind of a tough fight just because it's so many turns. It was really hard for me to remember kind of what I was doing. I ended up doing a lot of different things each run because I didn't really remember what I was doing, so I had to end up writing it down at some point. Went through the fight 2 or 3 times. But yeah, there's going to be resets. I had to redo this video twice because Vino and Wonder both died. So those units, they are definitely at risk. You do need a lucky, you know, dodge or a, you know, lucky, you know, low damage roll from the boss or something to survive this sometimes. But yeah, I hope you guys got something out of this. Apologies for this coming out very close to the time that these these cycles end. But I really kind of just started making the videos a few days ago, so I think going forward, these will be a lot more timely. And yes, I just want to say a quick thank you to everyone who watched the other Queen video for the guild boss. That video is like at like 160 views as I'm recording this or something. I genuinely did not expect a single video I put out for the first 3, 4, 5, 6 months to get more than like 5, 10, 15 views on them. So super cool. I'm glad people are seemingly, if not liking the video, at least not disliking the video. So thanks again, and I appreciate you watching, and yeah, have a good one.